I think we I think we need to start. It's time. Let's welcome our speaker. And Katya, you have the floor. Today we are going to speak about delegation of responsibilities and why is it an important skill for an analyst. So let's get acquainted. My name is Ekaterina Kushnir. I'm the lead analyst in EPAM. I've been working as an analyst since 2014, and throughout my career, I had uh, co roles coach for analysts, scrum master, lead analysis, resource management, etc. Throughout my career, I was delegating my powers and responsibilities, and due to the fact that I was wearing two hats at a time, I was dealing a lot with the analysts who were striving for development.
So, of course, we're going to speak about delegation today. But first, what is the responsibility? Why we should be taking responsibility for what we do, and how is it related to delegation? Then we'll speak about the chief fears which prevent us from delegating stuff. Then we'll speak about important aspects which are the important telltale signs that should allow us to delegate tasks, and then we'll discuss how and who to give and share our tasks with. In the course of my experience, I found an approach that guarantees growth, at least among analysts. First thing you need to do is to make sure that all your tasks are executed at a high level. Then implementation of presentation on this tasks, and then you shouldn't be afraid to take on responsibility for tasks. Whereas there's very little misunderstanding about the first two parts, like what about the high quality of the execution of tasks. Either there can be requirements from the project, or if you compare your tasks with other colleague analysts, you can understand how well you implement your tasks. The actual presentation of your progress on task execution is the skill that you can develop, and it's better to develop it at the beginning of your career, because analyst is approached at the very beginning when he's asked what kind of tasks you perform and how you execute them, and that's where you can present yourself very well. And as far as the third bullet point is concerned about taking on the responsibility for what you do, that's where most people find difficulty to accept. When you speak to your colleagues, your friends, analysts from previous projects, I encountered such things as, I'm a responsible analyst because I work a lot, I take on a lot of tasks, I try to do them as best as I can, but it's more like a sign that you're just a workaholic, nothing else. But the responsibility is a bit different thing. Responsibility means that you know exactly what needs to be done by what deadline, and you can do it by that deadline. So if you meet these two criteria, then you're a responsible analyst. And then your boss is looking at you, you can execute your tasks well. You're always telling them what you're doing. You take on the responsibility for that. You're the person you can rely on. As a result, they will try to promote you, give you more responsible titles in the company. And these three bullet points are easy to perform when you're a beginning analyst. That's why beginning analysts can quickly turn into middle specialists, because initial tasks are quite easy to perform. It's easy to assume responsibility for them, and it's easy to see them through. And the self-presentation is evolved here because we are asked for it. But with time, tasks are becoming more sophisticated. There are more of them, and we start seeing not such a happy person, but instead a person who is stressed out with an unhappy face. Why is it happening? Because at a certain moment in time, we start doing overtime work. we start keeping our eyes on the deadline, although we have to do a very difficult task, which leads to either going overtime or not doing it at a high quality level. That's why we have a backlog of tasks that we cannot perform. Do you think it all will lead to development? Unlikely. It will lead to stress and burnout, and stress and burnout are bad, which is not really good for our work. What should we do about that? Delegation. You might think that this is great. You might say, how can I use this in real life? If you just read about delegation, you will see that delegation is the process of uh, transition of your tasks from a boss to the subordinates. But in our agile world, it works somewhat differently. We can apply delegation only when you're regular. You cannot delegate tasks when you're a regular analyst, and even if you're an analyst, not a lead, doing this, it's much easier. It will be much easier for you to apply it a bit later when you have a leading position. Let's look at two examples here that I'm sure most of us have encountered in the past. First, you need to do some big thing, big assignment. And if you're a recognized and experienced analyst, you don't need to do delegation here. But there are cases, though, when you still have to delegate. First thing, when you realize at a planning stage, when you have just were given this task, even if you spend all your best efforts, then you will simply violate the deadline. You won't be able to do it before the deadline. Or you realize that even if you do it before the deadline, the quality might not be so good. Then, if you know that you have some additional tasks that you simply won't be able to co-perform with this execution, or if you have some other activities to work on, if you want to become a co-master, you undergo a course to get a certificate, for instance, later on, and you were given this task, you know you have a choice. Either you do self-development or this big assignment. In these three cases, we have to do delegation, no matter how we look at it. Next example is when you're given a fully functional sector. In the Russian projects, it's quite a frequent occurrence when some functional sector is subdivided among different analysts. You do this, you do that, and sounds like a comfortable situation, but it's an illusion. Seemingly, I'm working on this functional sector, I don't have to think twice about it, and it looks like you are in a comfortable situation. Your colleagues might also be in a comfortable situation when they don't need to do emotional investment into it. And it's good for boss. The boss knows who is responsible for what, and whenever he has questions about your assignment, he will just approach you. But it's not exactly like that, because if all of a sudden this functional sector will be removed from the project, or the boss thinks that it's wrong that you own the whole sector, you will lose these assignments, and it's not up to you to decide. So eventually it's not a comfortable position for you. Or if you fall ill, if you go to vacation without internet connection, that's it. Your colleagues will have to sort it out for themselves. It's more likely that they will commit some errors because you were the one invested into it. You knew all this stuff, so that will again eventually lead to a lot of mistakes. So you can spend some time in comfort, but not longer than 3 months. And then you will still have to emerge from this situation somehow to make sure that you delegate some parts of this assignment to your colleagues. And here I've done my own summary to demonstrate what are the main beacons of signaling the need for delegation, because as I told you, you can go over deadline, or the quality might not be at the required level, or you realize that there are some restrictions for yourself, for your team, for your project. All these things together are beacon signaling the need to delegate. And many people who are thinking about delegation often postpone it. Why? Because there are some fears. related to that. Okay, I delegate a task, and then somebody else will get all the credit. Or I'm not going to be as good an expert for the boss. I'm no longer going to be so valuable, and I will be fired. Or I do this assignment well, and give it to somebody else, and they do it badly. Let's look how we can alleviate these fears, although they're natural, to make sure that the delegation is a well used instrument for our own development. If you're afraid to delegate, or you just postpone or procrastinate delegation because you're afraid that somebody else will get the credit, or that you will no longer be viewed as a valuable asset of the company, then you have to remember one important thing. We are valued and we are praised for end result. You can spend hell of a time doing the work, but if the end result is not at the required level of quality, you'll get no credit, no praise for that. That is why taking responsibility for an assignment is not the same as doing it alone. This is an easy example. For instance, a boss approaches me and says, all these chairs from this room need to be moved to the next room by 3 p.m. What am I expected to do? That all these chairs will be moved over to the next room by 3 o'clock. Do you think he cares that I will do this or somebody else does it? No. He wants to get the end result that all the chairs are removed to a different room by 3 p.m. That's what we have to remember, that we have to remember the results. Owing to these results, we are receive all the credit, we are praised, we get all the bonuses. However, you shouldn't be sitting and waiting until people approach you and ask for part of the assignment. You think yourself what kind of part of the assignment you are going to delegate. If you see that the assignment has some risks or limitations, and in that case, we decompose the assignment, and some of the tasks are then decided that they need to be delegated. It means that these parts of the assignment must have the lowest level of risk and responsibility, and you need to know exactly what is expected from them. Another thing, there are tasks which are quite straightforward but take a lot of time to complete, like to draw a UML scheme for the process, because it can take 3 to 5 hours depending on the complexity of the scheme. And if you are going to do it yourself, it'll take too much of your time. Otherwise, you can delegate this quite a straightforward task and somebody else will do it for you. And the time will be made available to you to do other things. Another fear is that other people will do it badly. It is especially true about people who are very anal retentive, aspiring to get an ideal result. They always turn their end result into a perfection, and they're afraid that their part of assignment is not going to be a perfection. But we should remember that we are delegating the task not to somebody, because whenever we delegate, we're not only delegating the execution of this work, but we're also delegating the responsibility for this work. That is why we're not simply delegated to, say, Peter. Okay, Peter's available, I'll give him to him. We delegate it to people who meet two requirements. First, they're motivated to do it well, and secondly, they can do it. What does it mean, motivated? It means that this particular person wants to do this assignment that would be useful for that person for his or her development. It means that they have all the technical skills for that. They have full understanding what needs to be done, and they can achieve the required result, which is that would be beautiful people in an ideal world. But when we look at our team of analysts, it's unlikely that we'll find a person who is both motivated and can do it perfectly. That's why we look at our team, looking for people who meet at least one of these criteria. So a person could be either motivated, can do this task. If a person can do this assignment, then we think about how to make sure that this assignment is useful for this person's development. Maybe this person will help with the self-presentation of this person. Maybe it will help him to be promoted in his career. Or maybe, and that's how we sell this task to this person to motivate him. If a person simply wants to do this assignment very much, but he or she doesn't have enough experience or skill to do it, or he has never done it before. What do we do in this case? In this case, we have to check back whether this person has all the clearance required. Perhaps when a person wants to sort out the database requirements, we see that whether he has a clearance to get access to the database. We explain to them what kind of result we expect from this person by what time. And the first time, you can describe in great detail what exactly is needed to be done. For instance, do this, and then call the customer, agree on the solution. The first time you can provide a maximum detailed description. And if this person does well, everything well, if you have delegated the right task to the right person, it's a win-win situation. First of all, you are this blue person, okay? And you're giving part of your assignment to your colleague. And remember that we are giving part of our work not to somebody, but to a person who's motivated and for whom this assignment will be useful. So you're giving an opportunity to this person for self-development. At the same time, we get valuable time. Valuable time means you get out of the comfort zone. You need to fill it in with other tasks, with something more important managerial decisions. You can think about how to improve processes within the team. Some of the tasks which are important for our personal development. So we get out of the comfort zone and get self-development opportunity. If the boss sees that everybody's growing, then the whole team will be motivated to implement the project, and it's unlikely that they want to quit the company. Also, they will see that all the tasks have been done on time and at high quality level. Because when we see that there is a risk of violation of the deadlines or the quality requirements, and again, no restrictions, it's no longer you who are responsible for the tasks, but you have distributed it among your colleagues, not maybe for the first time or the second time, but the boss eventually will see you as a potential leader or a boss. So whenever there is a need to organize the team of analysts by some other person, you might get the position. So how do we build the delegation process? First, we get an assignment. We see whether this assignment has any risks or limitations or restrictions. If there are any, then we decompose this. We piece out some of the sub-assignments based on the previous criteria that we can delegate to others. And after we have decided what kind of sub-assignments can be delegated, we select people in our team who will be willing to or are capable to do this. If a person meets only one part of this requirement, we'll start thinking how to motivate this person. For instance, a person is capable of doing this, but is not really interested or motivated to do that. Then, or we understand how much time we need to train this person to do that. After that, we go to the boss and discuss the situation. We say that we have such a situation with such limitations. I've selected this part of the assignment that I'm planning to delegate to my people. So basically, I explain whatever is going on in my head. Then we have two scenarios. The leadership can agree or disagree with you. If they agree, everything is perfect. They understand it will lead to the development of the project in general. Then we move to the next stage. If the management said no, because of some reasons that they know of, for instance, they don't want to change something in the team structure, maybe they don't need any profit for them there, then our responsibility is to discuss risks or limitations that this task can create. We start discussing right away. Even if the whole project does all the things, we won't be able to do it on time. Let's decide right away. Either we postpone the deadline and agree it with the customer, or we give out additional paid hours for analysts, for developers, and that's how we can discuss all the risks and take on the responsibility for this assignment. Basically, we still remain to be responsible analysts, and this part should be discussed with the boss or an analyst. You can replace one with the other. Also, if you're a formal leader among the analyst team, you can discuss that part of the discussion with the management can be skipped. Next thing, there are tasks that can never be delegated. These are the tasks that you don't know much about, because whenever you don't know much about the assignment, it's this is the assignment which will be useful for you for your development. Secondly, these assignments cannot be properly delegated because you cannot explain the end result when you cannot achieve it yourself, and you won't be able to answer all the questions, so it's not really good. Also, you never delegate the high level responsibility or risk assignments, because it can entail financial or decision making issues, or delegation, many other things. But if we delegate such assignments, we can also undermine ourselves and other person. We don't do that. And the results presentation. The only exception is when you delegate a task that requires presentation of results. You give away preparation of maquettes to your colleague. Then these maquettes will have to be demonstrated to the customer. If the person has developed these maquettes and knows everything with the designer, this kind of work we can delegate to this person. There is yet another thing I would like to discuss with you. In my practice, I've delegated many things, but I have experienced difficulties. The mic is off. There were situations when I encountered some difficulties which have helped me look differently at delegation. And I believe that this difficulties, whoever is doing delegation, has encountered in their life. The first situation I had, my team received a new analyst, beginning analyst. He was afraid to make a public speech at meetings or ask questions, whatever. At the same time, this person was never writing any assignments. He was just making notes of meetings, doing some other minor assignments. And after looking at the situation, I understand that this person needs to be submerged into all these assignments. He was a responsible person, a bit fearful, but it's okay for a beginner. Then I went to a meeting together with this person. I made notes, some of the main salient points of the meeting, and I showed it to that person to keep notes of that, to describe the assignment, to give it to the development, and he did it perfectly. He did. He flew it with colors. He gave it to the development, but there was one disadvantage. We couldn't make the deadline because that person was doing it longer than required. And I understand whenever I give it to that person, I should understand that might take 50% longer than required. If we do it in 2 hours, then he might do it in 4 hours. But if we tell this person 4 hours, he will be too relaxed, because he will still do it in 4 hours.
Well, in the next situation, the person was interested in sequence diagrams. He started drawing these sequence diagrams, but didn't have any experience in that, and there was no modeling in his tasks. Once I understood that this is a great opportunity to assign this task to this person, I prepared this scenario and assigned the modeling of this scenario. Well, it was a comfortable situation. I was interested in this. The person was interested in that. When the person prepared a diagram, the diagram was great. It was very beautiful. But when checked, I saw that there were logical business mistakes because the person didn't read the scenario carefully. Why so? Because he concentrated on the drawing of a diagram, but didn't scrutinize the scenario. And I realized that if the tasks are interrelated, you need to assign both of these tasks. Let the person put down the scenario, draw the process. In this case, the probability of mistakes will be less. And the third situation, I had a very good analyst who wanted to become a senior at a project, but when he read the requirements of the company, he could see that he is not relevant. He needs to change. But over 3 years, he didn't describe any changes. When he came to me with that, I had a change to be made in the task, and I submitted this task to him without any explanation because he was a very good analyst. He did this task very good, but since he didn't have experience in changes, he forgot to delete certain tables from the database. It didn't affect the process so much, but the table is there, and if there's a need to bring the system to microservices or another system, people will not understand whether this table is needed there or not. So after that, I realized that if I assign a task even to an experienced analyst, at least I need to describe this task and ask him to talk about the process he's going to build up. If you'll see that he's missing something, then by follow up questions and comments, you might uh, lead this person to the correct pathway. So, summarizing it all, delegation is a great tool for career and growth. If you have an opportunity to delegate authority and responsibilities, you should do this. You will not be able to be promoted as an analyst if you don't take responsibility. It happens, so you should take ownership or responsibility for the tasks. If there are any risks for your work, for your reputation and development, this is again a good idea for delegation of authority and responsibilities and reducing the workload. And we don't wait to the moment when the manager comes and says that you need to delegate, otherwise, you will not hit the deadline. We do it ourselves. If everything is done properly, all the participants of this delegation process will be happy. If you delegated the task and you see that the person is not happy, maybe a mistake was made. Maybe you didn't explain to this person something. Maybe you didn't highlight any risks for this person. Or maybe the manager was not informed that you are delegating part of the task. So check that everyone is happy. That's it from my side. Thank you. Thank you, Katya. Questions? Thank you, Katya. I'm Yulia from Sibech Company. What is your role in the team? And what are your projects, external, internal products? It's an external project. I work at an international project to develop large scale technical tools. Currently, I'm lead analyst in the company and I'm a resource manager at the same time. I was lead at a number of projects. I have a question about the mechanics. When you mentioned that you choose who is going to do the task, you mentioned that you choose whom to delegate. Do you mean analysts in your team, in the project team, or all analysts in the company? This is my first question. And the second question, whom do you mean by saying a manager or management? Maybe it's an analyst from another project, from a different team, who is a manager who will agree upon the delegation of tasks to this analyst. Well, if we involve uh, analysts from our own stack, then we need to inform both managers, our manager and the manager of this analyst. If you're a lead analyst, then only one manager you inform. Hello, I'm Irina from Effective Technologies. First, I would like to thank you for the presentation. My question is simple. How do you strike a balance? For example, we have two analysts at a project. I delegate tasks following all the criteria that you mentioned, everything is fine. But at a certain point in time, the analysts understand that he or she is well developed and they're ready to move forward. And our budget is enough only for two analysts. So, what to do then? There are different solutions. You can take some tasks and uh, give some tasks and take some tasks from him, or you can have a meeting with a manager and discuss the situation that my development is hampered, I need to grow more, what can be done, and then you have this trilateral meeting and discuss. We have one more question. Thank you, Katerina, for your presentation. How do we delegate? What do we tell to a person so that the person gladly takes all the tasks, additional tasks? Well, this is the situation when the person is capable of doing a task but does not want to. Yes? Is it right? What we need to say to this person? Well, you just approach him or her and say, I have a task for you. So we should be clear and honest with our colleagues. We all strive to develop our project. We're not just pushing all these tasks onto him or her because we are lazy. No, you just say that there's a situation that I have a task. I understand that I will not be able to do it on my own. Could you help me? I've analyzed that this task might help you to develop. I will do my own tasks, etc. You explain it in detail so that person understands. And you don't say, I've discussed already with the management, here is the task for you. No, no, you don't do this. It should be very friendly conversation explaining why we do it, and we need to explain to the person that he or she will benefit from this as well. You might say that you will inform the management that this person helped you, or at the team meeting, you will also thank this person for assistance. So, we're trying to focus on the benefits, not only for ourselves, but for the person as well. I'm Ivan from Kevelex. Sometimes we don't have junior analysts at a project, but there are developers, there are testers. Are there any examples of delegating tasks to QA people and developers? Well, I was assigning tasks to testers, not to developers, but there might be such a situation, of course. If you need to describe a process, then you might assign this task both for a tester or a developer. Well, it will be a benefit for the tester because the tester will dive deeper into this process. You might have a joint discussion, ask him to describe this process. Well, I know that testers want to become business analysts to go to the management level, to be promoted to the management. Well, so you can talk to them saying that, okay, please do this. I will talk to the management and maybe you will be promoted to business analysts. As far as developers are concerned, I don't know what are the benefits for the developers. If it's a very technical task, well, I need to imagine. At one of the projects, we were preparing BPMN diagrams, then we're providing it to the developers to put on the code. And you can assign this task to them because very often they were commenting on our diagrams. So you can just give it to them saying that this is for you, it would be easier for you, and I will have time for some additional tasks that might be beneficial. No more questions. Thank you, Katya. And I would like to remind you that you can give a voucher for a t-shirt for the best question. All questions you liked, yeah? Yeah. Congrats, you will have a t-shirt.